The signal. The stars burned cold and distant as the alien fleet drifted near the edge of a quiet sector. Hundreds of ships moved together, their silver hulls glowing faintly against the blackness. This was Terran Space, or so the old charts claimed. The alien commander Vanar of the Threx Dominion stood tall on his flagship's bridge. His eyes glimmered with arrogance as he gazed at the void ahead. "Humans," he said with a sneer. "Fragile creatures from a forgotten world. They think their warnings frighten us?" The crew around him laughed quietly. The Threx Dominion had conquered dozens of systems. They crushed rebellions, burned colonies, and erased weaker species from history. Compared to that, Earth was nothing, a single green planet on the edge of the galaxy, but not everyone on the bridge shared his confidence. A young officer named Kale stared nervously at his console. Strange signals had been flickering across their sensors since they entered the border. Low-frequency pulses, sharp and cold, almost like whispers hidden in static. Then it came. A deep voice rolled through every ship in the fleet. It wasn't sent on normal channels. It cut through space itself, rattling metal frames and vibrating inside bones. "This is your last warning. Enter Terran Space at your own peril." The voice was calm. Too calm. It wasn't a threat shouted in anger. It was a statement, delivered like an unchanging law. The laughter on the bridge died instantly. Every officer turned to look at their commander. Vanar's smile faltered for only a second. Then he barked, a laugh. "A human trick," he said. "They want to scare us with recordings." But Kale's hands trembled over the console. He whispered, "Commander, this transmission, it didn't come from a ship." Vanar narrowed his eyes. "Explain." Kale swallowed. "The origin point is everywhere. It's as if the message was already waiting for us, hidden in the void itself. It activated the moment we crossed the boundary." The crew shifted uneasily. No empire had technology like that. Warnings usually came from patrol ships or satellites, not from the very fabric of space. Still, Vanar refused to show fear. He straightened his armor and spread his arms wide. "Let them speak. Their words mean nothing. They are weak and alone. We will press forward, and soon, Terran soil will kneel beneath the Dominion." The fleet continued deeper. Engines burned, bright. The silence that followed the warning seemed heavier than before, pressing down on every mind. Hours passed, but the unease grew. Ships began reporting strange anomalies. Satellites that appeared dead for centuries but still powered on when scanned. Wrecks of alien vessels floating in the dark, their hulls torn open as if shredded by claws. Kyle's heart pounded as he studied one drifting wreck. The ship wasn't human. Its design belonged to a species that had vanished centuries ago. Stories claimed they were destroyed by war, but here it was, floating like a corpse in Terran space. "Commander," Kyle said carefully, "these wrecks, they look destroyed in unnatural ways. Weapons fire, leaves burns, melted metal. But this looks like something ripped them apart." The bridge grew silent again. The crew stared at the broken ship on the hollow screen. Its hull looked almost chewed. For the first time, a flicker of doubt crossed Vanar's face. Then the voice returned. "Final notice. Leave Terran Space." This time the words were colder. No emotion, no anger, just finality. Kyle's breath caught in his throat. His hands were sweating, his eyes darting across the console. "Commander, this isn't a bluff," he whispered. "They knew we would come. They were waiting for us." But Vanar slammed his fist against the armrest. "Silence. The Dominion bows to no one. If the humans wish to test their strength, then let them come. We will crush them as we crushed all others." The crew didn't cheer. No one laughed. Only the hum of the engines filled the silence. Outside, space stretched endlessly, but something felt different now. It no longer felt empty. It felt watched. Every shadow between the stars seemed to carry unseen eyes. Every flicker on the sensors might be a ship, cloaked and waiting. The silence wasn't peace. It was the stillness before a predator struck. Cale shivered and stared at the wreckage once more. He thought of the voice, the warning, and the feeling pressing against his chest. For the first time in his career, he wished they had turned back. The Dominion fleet pressed deeper into Terran space, unaware that with every passing moment, the humans were already deciding their fate. The trespass, the Threx Dominion fleet moved deeper into Terran space, engines glowing against the endless black. Ship after ship followed in tight formation, as if numbers alone could protect them. The warning still echoed in every mind, but Commander Vaynar's pride burned brighter than his fear. "Do not falter," he ordered. "Humans hide behind shadows. We are the light of conquest." But shadows had their own strength. The further they went, the stranger the space around them became. Sensors began picking up faint structures, abandoned satellites drifting like ghosts. Some were old, almost ancient, their surfaces scarred by centuries. Others looked newer, but inactive, as if waiting for something. Cale couldn't look away from his screen. His console filled with strange readings, silent power surges, coded signals buried beneath static. He leaned closer, frowning. "Commander, these satellites, they are not dead." Vaynar waved him off. "Relics, nothing more." "No, sir," Kyle insisted, his voice shaking. "They are linked together. A network. I think they're watching us." The words sent a chill across the bridge. Officers exchanged uneasy glances, but no one dared speak. Then the first satellite moved. It was slow, almost lazy, turning on its axis. A single red light blinked on its surface, pulsing like an eye opening after a long sleep. Then another satellite stirred, and another. Soon, dozens of them glowed red, following the Dominion fleet's every move. The silence was unbearable. It felt like the stars themselves were staring. "Commander," whispered Cale, "they know exactly where we are." Vaynar's jaw tightened, but he forced a grin. "Let them look. The Dominion has nothing to fear." But deep inside he felt something clawing at his certainty. As the fleet advanced, wrecks began to appear more frequently. Not just one or two, but dozens. Hulks of alien ships floated in silence, torn apart and left to rot. Some were species the crew recognized from history, empires that once ruled sectors of the galaxy. Others were unidentifiable, lost civilizations that had never been recorded. One wreck was so massive that the Dominion ships had to change course to avoid colliding with its broken hull. Its size rivaled their flagship, yet it had been ripped. Open like paper, Kyle's voice cracked. How could humans do this? Their technology isn't supposed to be advanced." No one answered. The crew felt something pressing on them now, an invisible weight that grew heavier the deeper they went. The sensors began to glitch. Hull temperatures shifted for no reason. Systems flickered. It was as if the space itself rejected their presence. A sudden alarm blared across the bridge. "Unidentified energy surge detected," cried a technician. On the main screen, one of the glowing satellites pulsed brighter, and a wave of static spread through the fleet's communications. Every channel filled with harsh noise, then silence. The Dominion ships could no longer talk to each other. "Commander, we've lost fleet-wide communication," the officer reported in panic. Vaynar gritted his teeth. "Maintain formation. They want us to fear shadows. We will not." But Cale's hands trembled as he studied the energy spikes. "This is not random, sir. It's controlled. They're cutting us off, separating us like prey." Outside, the wrecks drifted past. Some looked recent. The burns were fresh, the metals still glowing faintly as if the battle had happened only months ago. The Dominion fleet slowed. The vast silence around them was no longer empty space. It felt like a trap tightening. Then it happened. The stars flickered. For a brief moment, the crew thought their systems had failed. But when the lights returned, something new appeared ahead. An enormous shadow, bigger than any Dominion ship. A ship, but unlike any design they had seen before. It hung in the dark without moving, its surface jagged and scarred. It wasn't sleek or beautiful like Dominion vessels. It was brutal. a predator built only for war. Every console lit up with warnings. Power signatures off the scale, weapon systems beyond comprehension. Kyle's voice dropped to a whisper. It's human. The bridge froze. Commander Vanar clenched his fists. He wanted to speak, to command, to show dominance, but the words stuck in his throat. The silence from the human vessel was worse than threats. It didn't move. It didn't speak. It simply waited. Then, like a voice from a nightmare, the same transmission filled the ship once more. You were warned. Trespass has consequences. Kyle felt his blood turn cold. The Dominion fleet had entered the Predator's den, and now the hunter had finally revealed itself. The first strike. The Dominion fleet floated in silence, every eye fixed on the monstrous shadow ahead. The Terran warship remained motionless, as if carved from the darkness itself. Its hull was scarred, brutal, and alive with strange markings, scars, of countless battles. No transmissions came. No threats, no demands. Only silence. Commander Vanar gripped the armrest of his command chair. His pride screamed for action, but his instincts whispered caution. He forced himself to speak. Open a channel. Demand they identify themselves. The communications officer hesitated. Sir, they already have. That signal. It came from them. Before Vanar could reply, the warship stirred. Its hull began to glow faintly, thin lines of blue light racing across its surface like veins. Slowly, with terrifying grace, it turned toward the fleet. The silence was broken, not by words, but by images flooding every Dominion screen. It wasn't an attack. It was a broadcast. Scenes filled the displays, burning cities, mushroom clouds rising into skies, oceans of fire consuming continents. The crew gasped. They had never seen destruction like this. These are their own worlds, Kale whispered. His eyes widened as he recognized the faces, humans broken and scarred, clawing out of rubble, rebuilding their homes from ashes. They destroyed themselves, and they survived. The images shifted. Wars fought with iron and fire, men charging into battle even when outnumbered, women standing in ruins carrying children through dust. Again and again, death came for humanity. Again and again, they stood back up. The crew fell into a stunned silence. The alien warlord commander's voice shook for the first time. They are showing us their history? Kyle's voice cracked. Not just history, a warning. They are telling us we have already faced extinction. You cannot break what is unbreakable. Then the images ended. The warship powered down its broadcast. The silence returned, but this time it wasn't empty. It was suffocating. Commander, one of the tactical officers whispered. Orders? Vanar clenched his jaw. His pride fought against his fear. Fire. Show them the Dominion is not afraid. The flagship's cannons roared, brilliant streams of plasma cutting across the void. Other Dominion ships joined in, the entire fleet pouring fire into the massive Terran vessel. Explosions lit up the darkness. For a moment, relief surged. Surely no ship could withstand that barrage. But when the light faded, the human warship still stood, unmoved, untouched. The blasts had hit, yet its hull bore no scars. It was as if the weapons themselves had been swallowed by the dark. No, Kyle whispered. His hands trembled as alarms filled the bridge. Our weapons are useless. Then the Terran warship finally moved. Not fast, not with desperation, but with terrifying patience. It drifted forward, its cannons aligning with mechanical precision. A single flash. One Dominion cruiser vanished, not destroyed, erased, its atoms scattered in silence, leaving only drifting fragments. No explosion, no warning, just gone. The crew gasped. Another flash, another ship gone. The Dominion fleet began to break. Crews shouted, captains screamed over broken comms, and panic spread like wildfire. Maintain formation, Vanar shouted, but his voice was drowned out by fear. The Terran ship did not rush. It advanced like a predator stalking wounded prey, firing only when it chose. Every shot was perfect, every kill precise. The Dominion's numbers meant nothing. Cale's heart pounded. He had fought in battles before, seen entire worlds burn. But never had he witnessed such cold, measured destruction. The humans weren't fighting for victory. They were making a statement. "This," Kyle whispered, his throat dry. "This is not war. This is execution." The bridge shook as another Dominion vessel was erased from existence. Officers scrambled, their voices rising in terror. For the first time, Vanar's mask of arrogance cracked. Sweat glistened on his brow. "Send word to the fleet," he barked. "Retreat and regroup." But it was too late. The Terran warship spoke again. "You were warned. Trespass has consequences." The words were not shouted. They were cold, heavy, undeniable. The crew sat frozen, fear gripping their very souls. Kyle felt the truth settling in his chest. This was no enemy they could defeat. This was a force older and crueler than any Dominion had faced, and this was only the first strike. The fear. The Dominion fleet was breaking apart. Where once there had been perfect formation, now there was chaos. Ships scattered, captains shouted, conflicting orders and discipline collapsed under the weight of terror. The Terran warship had fired only a few times, yet the Dominion's numbers already looked smaller, weaker, hunted. On the flagship's bridge, the silence of fear was broken, only by alarms. The crew scrambled, their hands shaking as they tried to restore communication across the fleet. But every channel remained filled with static, as if the humans controlled the very airwaves. Commander Vanar sat rigid in his chair, rage burning in his eyes. But even rage could not cover the tremor in his voice. "Reform lines, they cannot destroy us all." But Kale knew better. He had seen the precision of the Terran strike. These humans didn't waste fire. They didn't need to. They could pick apart the Dominion fleet piece by piece, and there was nothing anyone could do to stop them. Kale whispered, "They're not fighting us, Commander. They're teaching us." Vanar turned on him sharply. "Teaching us what?" Kale met his commander's eyes, his voice hollow. "That Terran Space is not to be entered. Ever." Another alarm blared. The main screen showed movement. Not one. Not two. Dozens. Around the fleet, new shapes emerged from the darkness, sleek, deadly, silent. Terran ships hidden until now decloaked in unison. Their hulls glimmered faintly in the starlight, surrounding the Dominion fleet like wolves circling prey. The bridge crew gasped. Some froze in place. Others stepped back from their stations as if distance could save them. One officer stammered, "How long have they been there?" Kale's console trembled with signals. "Since the beginning," he said. "They let us come this far." The realization sank into everyone at once. The humans had not been surprised. They had been waiting. The fleet was surrounded. The Dominion ships tried to adjust, turning their weapons toward the nearest human vessels. But before they could fire, the Terran ships shifted formation, faster, sharper, more precise than anything the Dominion had ever seen. They didn't need orders. They moved as one. The fear on the bridge was suffocating. It wasn't just the power of the Terrans. It was the silence. No taunts, no demands, no insults. Only the quiet certainty of predators who already knew how the hunt would end. Kale's chest tightened. He whispered almost to himself, "They don't want conquest. They don't want surrender. They only want us gone." The crew froze again as every console lit up. A new broadcast filled the ship. This time, not images, but voices, not one voice. Thousands, human voices, whispers layered over each other, male and female, old and young. Some shouted in rage, some cried in grief, some spoke calmly, but together, they formed a single wave of sound that pressed into every heart, the words repeated like a chant in hundreds of tongues but always carrying the same meaning. We survived. Cale covered his ears, but it didn't matter. The voices weren't just in the air, they were inside him. They told stories of worlds that had burned, of children buried in rubble, of soldiers walking through nuclear ash. And yet, every voice ended the same way. We survived. The Dominion crew trembled. Fear became something deeper, something primal. The realization that the humans did not simply fight wars. They endured them. They thrived on them. One by one, Dominion ships began, breaking formation entirely, engines burning as they tried to flee. Cowards. Vanar roared, "Return to formation!" But no one listened. Even on his own bridge, officers avoided his gaze. Their loyalty to the Dominion meant nothing when their survival instincts screamed louder. Cale turned back to his commander. His voice was steady now, almost resigned. "They warned us, Commander, twice. This is the third time. Do you know what that means?" Vanar's lips curled in defiance, but he didn't answer. Kyle leaned closer. "It means we are out of chances." As if to prove his words, the Terran warships' cannons began to glow again. Not firing yet, just waiting, humming with quiet menace. The other Terran ships shifted, tightening the circle, sealing every escape route. The Dominion fleet was trapped. The bridge crew sat frozen in despair. Some wept silently. Some prayed to gods that had never answered, and some simply stared at the screens, unable to believe what they were seeing. Vanar gripped the armrest so hard his claws dug into the metal. His pride refused to accept defeat, but his eyes betrayed him. For the first time in his career, he looked like a man staring at death. The humans had spoken only 3 times. The next would not be a warning. The last warning. Fulfilled, the Dominion fleet was silent now. No discipline. No courage. Only fear. Dozens of ships had already broken formation, fleeing blindly into the dark. Their engines burned hot as they scattered, desperate to escape the invisible cage closing around them. But no matter how far they ran, the Terran ships shifted calmly, always present, always watching. On the flagship, Commander Vanar's pride crumbled. His jaw clenched, his claws dug into the armrest, but his eyes betrayed the truth. The Dominion had faced rebellions, uprisings, and rival empires before, but this was different. This was not war. This was judgment. "Send a transmission," Vanar roared, his voice shaking. "Tell them, we surrender. The Dominion surrenders to Earth." The communications officer worked frantically, forcing signals through the static. For a long moment, nothing returned. No reply, no change, only silence. Then the Terran warship answered. A single voice, deep and merciless, filled every Dominion vessel. "Earth does not want your surrender. Leave." The B crew froze. They glanced at one another in disbelief. No demands for tribute, no negotiations, no chains of conquest. Only one command: leave. Cale's voice cracked. "They don't care about our empire. They don't want slaves. They only want to be left alone." But Vanar shook his head violently. "No, no, they must want something. Every conqueror wants something." The voice returned, colder this time. "Leave Terran Space, or be erased." The last word lingered, sharp as steel. On the holoscreen, the Terran fleet shifted formation. Hundreds of ships moved in silence, their dark hulls glimmering with faint light. Together they formed a wall across the stars, endless and immovable. Behind them, Earth remained unseen, hidden in shadow. Yet its presence was undeniable. It felt as if the entire galaxy held its breath. Then the first Dominion ship disobeyed. A captain, panicked and desperate, fired his cannons at the nearest Terran vessel. Plasma streaked across the void, bright, defiant, meaningless. The response was immediate. A single flash of Terran fire. The Dominion ship vanished. No explosion. No wreckage. Nothing remained. Gasps filled the bridge. Officers stumbled back, their skin pale with terror. Kyle whispered, "They don't bluff." Around the fleet, panic erupted. Captains screamed orders to retreat. Engines flared as Dominion, Ships fled in all directions. The once mighty armada of the Threx Dominion became a storm of chaos, each vessel clawing for survival. The Terrans did not pursue. They did not need to. One by one, the fleeing ships vanished from the holoscreen, their signals lost beyond the edge of Terran space. Those who remained, too slow, too stubborn, or too proud, were erased with surgical precision. Not slaughtered, not brutalized, simply removed. On the flagship, Vanar collapsed into his chair. His voice broke into a whisper. "We are finished." Kyle stood frozen, his chest heavy. He felt no pride, no relief, only awe. Awe at the power of a species the Dominion had mocked for centuries. The Terran warship drew closer, its massive shadow filling the screen. For a heartbeat, Kale thought it would fire, ending them as it had ended so many others. Instead, the voice spoke one final time. "This is your last warning. Tell the galaxy, Terran space is forbidden." And then, as silently as they had appeared, the Terran ships began to fade. One after another, they vanished into the black, cloaking themselves until only the empty stars remained. The Dominion fleet was gone. The survivors scattered across the galaxy, carrying with them a story that spread like wildfire, a story of a warning ignored, a story of judgment, a story of Earth. Never again would a fleet enter Terran space without remembering the fate of the Threx Dominion. Never again would the galaxy laugh at the small green planet at the edge of the stars. Earth did not conquer. Earth did not bargain. Earth warned once, and once was enough.